Helene O'Brien is originally from the Bronx, New York, and she's been an organizer of low to moderate income workers for 35 years. Her commitment to helping workers build powerful democratic organizations that win fair pay, better benefits, and respect and dignity for hardworking people has been the driving force for organizing workers in the South. And for more than 10 years, Helene has worked with 32 BJ members, I guess that's the name of the union, to make our Florida district the dynamic, fast-growing, and victorious union it has been.
Well, thank you so much. It's really great. You know, I've always seen Rotary, and I actually never knew what Rotary was. So this is like, despite me being a community organizer for a couple of decades, I've never been to a Rotary Club meeting. So thanks so much. I'm thinking that it would be great to have a little bit of a conversation. I'm going to basically say a little bit about myself, a little bit about my organization, but most importantly about our members and what they're facing. And I'd love to also have a conversation about a path forward, especially here in our community in Broward. So a little bit about myself. As Bruce said, I'm originally from New York. I was a community organizer for 10 years in New York City, and then went to organize in the Southwest, in Arizona, and then after Hurricane Katrina, relocated to New Orleans to help with the rebuilding. So in many ways, the spirit that I feel in this room, I can really relate to and connect with. Very committed to the grassroots. I believe that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and if we don't, then the world's going to go to hell in a handbasket. So it's on us. You know, it's no pressure, but it's on us. I started as a union organizer around 17 years ago, organizing low-wage workers. And I don't know how many people here have ever been in a union or have had to, I guess on the business side, work with a union. Are there folks who've been in a union? No? Okay. Have you had to work with a union? Which union? Which workers?
Automotive industry here in the States.
Okay.
And different unions in Europe, South Africa, Mexico, Brazil.
Yes. So the world is, so the unions are very different in every country. And in the United States, we've always had some ambivalence, especially down here in the South. Historically, we have not had worker organizations. Obviously, before slavery was eliminated, there was a lot of, people didn't believe in worker organization. And the truth is, much of the economic model of these big corporations, and they basically make sure that there's not a lot of folks making a lot of money. And so that's really, as Florida's developed, we've been a tourism industry, very low wage jobs historically. And then a lot of people believe that unions are from the olden days, from say the auto industry or manufacturing, and the kind of the image that you see. So our union, which is 32 BJ for building janitors, we started as the doormen. All the New York City doormen in New York City are basically members of our union. We're very committed to organizing. And so here in Florida, we started in 2006 when the janitors who take care of University of Miami got together, 400 of them, and said they want some health care, they want some health insurance, and they'd like a living wage. At the time, they were making less than $6 an hour. They had no paid time off. They had no health care, no benefits to speak of. And the University of Miami certainly had the money, but said no. Now, the thing about low-wage work in America right now is, low-wage workers don't work directly for the university. They don't work directly for an airline. They don't work directly for a local government. They work for an outsource, a subcontractor, whose name nobody will ever know. It's usually a conglomeration of letters and the like. So these workers worked for a company called Unico. I don't even think they exist anymore, but they were contracted with the University of Miami. And after requesting, the right to negotiate for wages and benefits, the company said no. So they went on a 2-month strike. And the university still said no. And so most of them were from Cuba. And they had learned about protests in Cuba, especially hunger strikes. And so they organized a hunger strike. All the staff of the union were freaking out, saying, please don't do it. Thinking of, that's all you need is someone dropping dead or whatever. But they were like, hell no, we're going to do it. And so they did a strike and they won. And that is how our union has started. I tell that story because it's kind of crazy to think that in order to win, say, a paid sick day or a paid holiday or a living wage, that's what it took. But that's what it took. And to this day, that's still what it takes. Our members clean airplanes. Our members are the ones, when you go get your bag from the airport, they're the ones who are taking it off the plane and putting it on the ramp. Our members are security officers, making sure that you're safe and that all the entrances at, say, at a university or at the courthouse or at an airport are protected. The one thing our members have in common is that they are almost like the elves in the shoemaker, if you know that old story. They do invisible work. The only way you know a janitor is doing his or her job is if it's dirty. You don't notice that it's really clean. You notice if there's garbage in the garbage can. And so they have had to organize and fight. So over the past 6 years, almost 7,000 of them here in South Florida have organized successfully. So pretty much if you go to any nice office building now in Broward County, it's going to be cleaned by a union janitor. They're still low wage, but they have paid time off. We actually have a legal fund, so they don't have to pay. They have free legal assistance, which now most of them are immigrants they're using. And we have free education training program. We have a school so they can learn English, they can learn computers, they can learn CPR. So it's about building an institution that really helps the hardworking, invisible workforce move ahead. And so they've been quite successful, and then immigration changes happened. And it has been, the level of disruption has been awful for them, their families, and I actually believe for all of us here in the community. There's 250 janitors and groundskeepers at Nova Southeastern University. They are all in our union. And yet the leader of that union was a woman named Maria Elena, who is a woman named Maria Elena, who left Nicaragua in 2000. She basically left because the Sandinistas, she had issues there. And when she got here, she was able to get temporary protected status, TPS. She never married an American citizen, which is the only way someone with TPS can actually get a path to citizenship. But she lived in the same apartment in Plantation for 20 years. She's worked at the university for 18. Never missed a day of work, super responsible. Her last day at her job was September 8th because she's now considered illegal. She's followed every rule. She's done everything. She's been, very active in her community. She is now unemployed. We now face at the Fort Lauderdale Airport, and as well as other major institutions, there's hundreds of thousands in Florida, Haitians, who came here, especially after the earthquake, and they got temporary protected status. Many did marry and were able to figure out how to change their status, but most did not. And so they are here now, and on February 3rd, 2026, they will be illegal. And what that means is they can't work. They have basically threats everywhere. We have members who no longer drive, because they're afraid they're in a gray area. They only ride bikes everywhere in this weather. People are terrified, and we really believe that as a community, we don't even think that that's good for us. We think that we all do better when there's hardworking people. Who is going to push you in a wheelchair when or your parents say at the airport? It's going to be someone, most likely a hardworking immigrant, and most likely because we haven't had a path to citizenship or immigration reform or anything for decades, they're really not able to go forward and figure out how to become a full participant in our society. Although I have to say, our members have been full participants. We have passed laws, we have volunteered in the community. They have done all of these things, and now they're being kind of hunted down. I guess that's why I felt like I wanted to get out more and hear from people in the community, because I don't think most people know about the impact. So not just Maria Elena, I'm going to tell a story about Katia. Katia pushes wheelchairs for 2 different companies at Fort Lauderdale Airport. She works around 17 hours a day. She has Mondays off, and she works half day, which is only 8 hours on Sunday. I say that because that's what it takes to live in a very expensive community right now. You know, South Florida is booming, but workers are finding it very hard to pay their bills and get ahead. She works very, very hard, but after February 3rd, she's going to lose both those jobs. So for her and her family and her coworkers, and for those of us that use the services at the airport, we're going to feel it. But the businesses are not supporting it either. The businesses don't want to lose these workers. They've been with them for decades. They love them. Now that we're kind of in a box where there's no path forward, in Miami, 65% of Miami-Dade workers are immigrants. We have a similar, not as high as in Miami-Dade, but we're pretty high up there in Broward as well. These are our neighbors. These are our community. And I guess I'll just before I open it up, I will just say, as an American, I was born in New York. Both my grandparents, my mother's parents, were immigrants from Ireland. And my grandfather was an illegal immigrant, I guess, but back then no one enforced, there was no laws that he was violating, because the laws are new. He just came over from Canada. He was a longshoreman, and the boat went to Canada, and he crossed the border and came over. They were not even really model people, the stories, my parents tell me, but they have produced a whole bunch of people that have made incredible impacts, and we're all American. In my view, Americans are people who work hard and want to be here and want to strive and create change and build build businesses, be entrepreneurs, and build community. Our union is organizing. We're building connections with the community, and in January we're going to hold a big public town hall meeting, and we will send the invitation. We would love for people to come to hear and to let the public know that we believe that Haitian temporary protected status should be extended. We don't think people can go back to Haiti anyway right now. I don't know if there's any questions or if folks have any thoughts around or even disagreements about stuff that I said. Yes?
Well, I'd like for you to tell us some horror stories about some actual people and some of the things that they're facing.
Yes.
2 or 3 examples.
Yes. I've talked about temporary protected status, but a few years ago, when all the people were gathering at the border, Biden created a system called Cuban, Haiti, Nicaraguan, Venezuelan parole. And it stopped people from rushing the border, and people had to apply and get vetted on an app, and then were allowed. It was like a lottery, and some people were allowed in. And Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela. That's South Florida right there, right? I mean, those are our countries if you think about who lives here. They came, they got permits to work, and for 2 to 3 years. And then in June, after a bunch of legal battles, they all received an email saying you have 30 days to leave the country. And in one day, I received calls from a bunch of our employers. We had 140 members lose their job that day. The Nicaraguans were the ones who were the most in trouble because they have no path. So we had one member whose husband and 2 adult children, like 20, 21 years old, and herself, all 4 of them were fired on the same day in end of June. All 4 of them lost their income. We have another member who's Cuban. Now, Cubans, through this program, are allowed to ultimately get legal status, but they had to wait a year, and then they apply, and then it takes longer. So we have 40 Cubans who lost their jobs. And one woman sent her children to her cousin in Seattle. Her husband went to live in another city. They're just surviving, scraping. They've lost their housing. There's no public assistance, there's no help. We made sure people could take food with them.